What's your name, where you're from, and how long have you been living here?
My name is Merline Houston. Um, we've been here for how many years?
All your life?
Well, I mean in Mooresville. I was born Mazeppa, and I've lived here all my life.
And I am Robbie Turner. Most people will remember me as Robbie McKee. And I have been here most of my entire life. Grew up here. I went away for a little while, came back, and was just have been working since then to kind of help things move forward.
All right, give me 1 second. What's one of the first memories that you have of Mooresville?
My first memory is when I was a young girl. I remember we would come into Mooresville because, as I said, we lived at Mazeppa. And there used to be a Winn-Dixie that's right across from where now the Bank of America is. And it was like black people just met there. The building was huge, well, to me at that time. And it was as if black people just came in on Saturday. And it was an all-day thing. And the building had a little lip out in the front. And black people would just sit on the lip of the building and just watch people go by. But I remember not ever feeling like I belonged or anything. I always had that feeling. I will say though, back then, people, especially white people, were more, I would guess the word would be they were friendly to us. But at the same time, I just never felt comfortable. Let's put it that way.
Why wouldn't you feel comfortable?
Because when I came up, I really never met white people that were nice. And so, as a child, you form this opinion. So, me feeling that way, and they always were so, in the way that they were then, I would say more condescending. It was always talking down to people of color. And that being my experience, I carried that for a long time. And so that's where mine came from, was never being put to ease around white people.
When did you start having more positive views of white people? And do you think the town had anything to do with racial relationships?
Yes, the town really did. At that time, everything that went on in Mooresville was done by white people. I began to feel a little more at ease once I graduated from high school in Statesville, because we couldn't go to the Mooresville school. As I began to work at what they used to have, Mooresville Mills. And it was culture shock. I went to an all-black school. I had all-black teachers. It was like throwing me out to the lions, and I was like, okay, take a deep breath, okay. So I started working around white people. I had to catch on to their language because they use words differently than we do. And I had to learn what they meant when they said whatever it was. And I guess that was the first time I met people that treated me like I was equal with them. I remember I had this boss at that time, Jack Jeffers. He said to me one time, he said, Merlin, he said, when you talk to a white person, look them in the eye. I never realized that in my history as a black person in slavery time, that was not done. You did not look them in the eye when you talked to them. And he told me that, and from that day forward, I did it. And I guess you could say I got there because he took time to explain things to me and to talk to me.
So you said you went to black schools. Tell me about the black schools that you went to.
First, starting out, I went to a school called Amity Hill. We were bused from Mazeppa to Amity Hill. Then that went from grades 1 through 8. After we graduated from Amity, then we would come, the bus would pick us up, take us to Amity. We would get off that bus. That bus would then take us to Unity, which is in Statesville. So I remember at some point later on when they began to want to integrate schools. I had some classmates that went and then they came back. Their experience was not good.
So let's talk about integration. What do you remember?
I remember it not being what I had thought it would be. It's different when a law is passed. You cannot in any way make somebody want to be where you are. I remember thinking about how it would be to go in the front door of a restaurant. We'd always gone in the back. You know, you didn't dare go to the front door. And it was so, I mean, you really don't realize what it does to you in the inside when you're taken from what you feel is comfortable. I mean, I always had black people there to encourage me, to tell me I could do this, tell me I could do that. What do you want to be when you grow up? You know, you can do that. But to come out into the world where integration began, it was still, you gotta earn it. And they weren't always nice. The jobs I had, even as nanny, I had to work through it. I really did.
As you was watching her, how was you feeling?
Because there is a 12-year age difference between us, when I came along, I was pushed to go towards education, which is why I'm still now an information junkie. I realized that that just wasn't fair because our grandmother and our dad worked at Mooresville Mill.
Yes.
And he was known as a jokester, but little did they know he was joking, but he really wasn't joking. Because he always was this way. He'd always make you laugh to throw you off balance.
Yeah.
And so that's how our dad got through. But what I was getting from her, because in age, there's a brother between us. And I saw them work, and they worked hard. But then they told me, you need to go to school. You need to do this. You need to do that. But growing up in school when I came along, I'm a child of the 60s. And we just didn't tolerate a lot of that. Our parents were strict on us about going to school and getting good grades. But I also realized that there were a lot of things that we were not given the same information as my white counterparts did in school. We weren't given the best books.
True.
I wasn't given the tools that I needed so much to go to school with and to excel as I desired to. But what happened was my family invested in the two-volume Black history book they used to have a long time ago.
Yes.
And it was what we knew about Black culture growing up. And so I was always told I had to read those books. And so I learned a lot about the culture. But I also knew at that time growing up that we were making strides in our family, because my sister helped raise me, and she raised me to always excel. There was never any excuse for me not getting the job done. There was my dad, my grandmother, our mom. Nobody ever gave me that out. And so it did me good. But what I saw growing up was the fact that that didn't necessarily go well with everybody.
True.
They still wanted me to be an underling.
True.
Now, at the time, I was kind of in a rough place because family was saying you need to excel and you need to do this. But everybody on the outside wasn't so accepting of that. And so I had to realize at an early age, if it's going to be coming to me getting in trouble with people at home, you're dead meat. So basically that's how I looked at it. And so no matter what anybody said, I always thought to myself, yeah, I can listen to you say that, but I don't believe you. So I grew up with that in mind, thinking, because our grandmother and our family home is right across the street where we grew up.
Yes.
Our grandmother bought that house in 1952, and she grew up there. And our grandmother was a no-nonsense woman. For people that were downtown and uptown now, she would tell them in a minute, you don't tell me, I washed your diapers and hung them on the line.
Yeah.
And so for all the bankers and all the people that were uptown, all you had to do was say Dora McKee, and they knew exactly who you were talking to. And if you thought that she was going to bite her tongue, she didn't. So I guess that's where we inherited that from.
Yes.
But we learned that you have to go for what you want. And don't let anybody tell you what you can and cannot have.
I want to stop you real quick.
Thank you.
What did she do? Who did she work for? And did she ever talk to you about some of the things she did at work?
Our mother did household work, starting out, because that's what all Black women did starting out. And she did everything from cooking to cleaning to washing. The woman, when she came home, she had nothing to do for $20 a week. And she worked for Donald Owens first. And then at some point after that, she got to work at the shirt factory. Used to be up here on...
it's where that NC Works is now.
Yeah, it's up
there.
Yeah. And she did that for a good while. And then she came down with arthritis. I remember her telling us, she said, watch out. She said, when you work on that concrete floor, it'll slowly walk you down. Our mother was bedridden for 30 years. We took care of her. And in taking care of her, she got to the point to where she had home health people come in and do a little something for her, you know. And so they kept looking at how we took care of her. And they said her bottom looks like a baby's bottom. But we didn't know anything about that. We just knew we were taking care of Mama. And so they said, y'all need to go into nursing. And so that's how both of us ended up going into nursing.
Your father, what type of work did he do?
Our dad worked at Mooresville Mills. That's all we ever knew him to do. He would, when it would snow, we lived back off the road. And when it would snow, he would leave the house, walk for however long he had to walk, and catch a ride. And he would go to work at Burlington, because they always said at Mooresville Mills, if you can get here, you so we saw him do that.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him do that all the time. And that's what he did. I mean, he was there for like what?
He retired from there.
Yeah.
That's all we ever knew. And trust me, it's like 5 to 6 miles from where we live to Burlington Mill.
Yes.
And he would walk that, and he figured somebody on the way, maybe somebody would pick him up. And that's what we knew.
And I saw him once he retired. I think he got a watch or a badge or something.
A watch.
And I said to myself, it's not going to be that way with me. I'm not going to invest all of my energy, all that I have. And at the end of it, I get some little badge or watch or something for all of that. So I determined, no, I'm not going to do it.
So there was a shift in time from you growing up. It was probably a little bit more racist. Then you coming up and it's segregation, integration, and now we're starting to work together. How did your family position itself during that time, and how did that time period shape your family?
I think for our family, it was that it was difficult. It really was. We did what we could, and I mean my sister and I, as far as working. I remember even starting out working at Mooresville Mills. I mean, it was a 6-day week all the time. I remember one time, my mother and I, we were in an accident. And that night, after I had gotten home, and I remember just shaking. Because, you know, you always do that afterwards. And I remember my daddy saying, okay, get ready to go to work. Because I worked on third shift. So there never was a let up. It was as if I guess it was that we had to carry on for our family. Because as I said, our mother was bedridden for 30 years. Our father wasn't in good health ever. He just did what he had to do, take care of his family. So we had to do what we could to better ourselves.
And I think during the process, what really stood out for us was the fact that we came from a matriarchal society. Our grandmother, our mother, taught us to be strong women. So if whatever needed to be done, you had to do it. Whether that meant fighting through, dealing with integration, segregation. When I came along, it was more of you got there on the reputation of our parents, because our parents were known as hard workers.
Yes.
Which is one of the reasons why we always are on the town, and when they do these remembrances of the fact that black people during our day and our parents' day, they worked hard. They worked tirelessly to make Mooresville be what it is
today,
so that you could have a 150, so that you could have a point. If it wasn't for the work of the people that were here, our parents, our uncles and aunts, they worked for the town whenever the youth picked up the trash in the backyard.
Yes.
You know, I actually was, if you want to put it this way, I was adopted, kind of like in this way, into the family. But my dad, which is
my uncle,
her uncle, because actually our mom or her mom was my aunt in birth, but she raised me since I was a year old. You know, black people did that back in the day.
Yeah.
And so they drove the truck for the town. Our grandfather worked at the foundry for $4. But Moser Ironworks for $4 a week.
Yeah.
Our grandmother, she took in washing and cooking and cleaning. Our grandpa also worked at the the seashell pet shop.
Yeah.
I remember getting off school, and after I got off school, I would walk to the pet shop because that's where he was working. And that's where I would run into Miss Melker and all the people that were there.
Yes.
And so our family was known as being hard workers, and so we were able to, I guess, capitalize on that.
We did.
But in process of that, we also saw other people didn't have that same benefit, because you have to be willing and be pushed out there in order to do that, which is one of the sad things about it, because back in those days, people weren't as accepting of you if you kind of were a shy person.
Right.
You had to be kind of outspoken, and you had to kind of just go for it, and you had to have the backup from your family. And so that was what our family was able to do.
Yeah, I was actually very shy.
Yeah.
I was painfully shy when I was a young girl. And even when we would have those things at church, when you have the Easter program, and my mother would say, honey, get up there and say your speech. And I would say, Mama, they're going to be looking at me. She said, honey, I know, but get up there and say your speech. And so today, when I tell people that, they say, when was that? It was. I had to come from that. But I'm just telling you how it was and how we had to be tough.
Yeah.
We had to be strong. We had to take it when they said, okay, well, if you can't do this, then what, I'm going to take that off your pay. Or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And we had to just bite our lip and just go on. And so in that, seeing these children today, I'm not willing to let them fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Just not willing to do that.
Given your history in Mooresville, how did it prepare you to do what you're doing right now, and also speak about what you're doing currently?
Being from here prepared us for this. Having a history here prepared us for this. Because we know what happened, if I can say it, way back. We know what's happening today, because for Mooresville, black people are in pockets. West End, Meadowlark Glen, here at Bell Street, Eastern Hike. We're all in pockets, but we're not out near Main Street. We're all hidden from view. But black people are the ones that made Mooresville what it is today. All of our uncles and everybody, they worked for the town. When Burlington closed, it was Mooresville Mills, Burlington, whatever. When it closed, all of the black men that had been working for the town were let go. Now, the only people you see that's working for the town are white men. What they had to do after Burlington closed, they said, well, you have Walmart. When they were working at Burlington Mills on production jobs, they fed their families. They paid their rent, their mortgage. They had a car.
Able to buy a house.
Able to buy a house. Did things that we as black people had never done.
Yeah.
But then when that closed, there was no plan. You cannot do things without a plan.
Even though we came through hard times back in those days when there was integration and segregation, we never missed a meal.
Never.
Our dad had a garden. He worked a job.
Yes.
Our mom took in laundry as long as she was able to work, or she'd work in the shirt factory. Now what we see is we have 1 out of every 3 children in Mooresville that live below the poverty line.
Yes.
How have we gotten back to that point is what I want to know.
True.
And so what we do is you try to counteract that, because when children and people are hungry, that takes your mind somewhere else. And I always say that desperate people do desperate things.
What's the name of your organization? How do people get involved with your organization, and talk about some of the projects and things you have done?
You can begin that.
Our organization is Community Caring. We started in July 2012. Our main goal was to help feed children and to tutor them so they could do better in school.
Right.
What we found out was that during the Feeding for the Children and having summer programs when they were out and doing the tutoring, they fared better. But then when they went home, they went back to those same circumstances that didn't help them prepare for success.
True.
Is how we like to phrase it. So what we've done is we have a clothes closet, we have a food pantry, we've had programs where we have shopping days where people make donations, and we put it out here in the cul-de-sac, and people are able to come and shop with us. We charge nothing. Everything is given to us, and so we have never charged a dime for anything.
We partnered with Sweet Dreams.
Sweet Dreams.
To get beds for the kids. We were so, it was like, you don't have a bed?
Mm-hmm.
And so Sweet Dreams up here partnered with us, and they gave free beds.
30 beds.
With blankets, a Bible.
And a pillow.
And a pillow. And so it just made such a difference. We started giving out necessities.
Yes.
When you have a family and it's 3 kids and all of them are using one toothbrush.
Mm-hmm.
We can't have that.
No.
We're not going to have that.
First, it's not hygienic. And we also started doing things for seniors because our seniors were having to take a lot of pills, but they weren't getting the food they needed, so it was bothering their stomachs.
Right.
We also worked with one of our partners from Williamson Church who works with the school system, and we were able to get the Wi-Fi program up for some of the kids because, as you know, Mooresville School is paperless. Well, and they give the kids laptops when they reach 4th grade. But if you don't have internet at home, it does you no good to have your laptop. Then you can't get your studies, and then your parents can't access your grades or to check behind you, make sure you're doing your homework or get feedback from your teachers. So we started that program. So now there's a program that's been for the last few years where kids are giving a little bonus when they get the laptops and reach 4th grade, that they are charged like $10 a month during the summer months when they're not in school for their internet, and then while they're going to school, it was free, just to help kids be able to get their homework done.
Also, we worked down here to get the park up to par, because that's where the kids would go when they were having problems. I remember one time coming over here, and we went down to the park, and it was cold. And one of my little babies, he was down there. And you know how when it's cold and you cry, then the tears kind of stain your face, and his nose was running. And when I got there, he said to me, I was waiting for you. I said, oh, that's it. Never again. Never again. Because you cannot expect children to go to school and learn and even think that they could be somebody one day. One of the things I always think about, I always told my son, Jason, you can be anything you want to be. But I never told him he could be president until President Obama. I didn't know it could happen. I didn't know. And I know for our parents, if they could have seen what that would have done for them. Because even in Mooresville now, how many black people are in the government in any way? None. I mean, that's just the way it is.
And they have resisted.
Oh, yeah.
They have resisted our input on a lot of things, which would have stood them in great stead. And we told them afterwards, when they would come back and said, well, you know, we were trying to do it this way, we're trying to do it that way. I said, but you don't have boots on the ground. See, when you don't have boots on the ground, you don't know really what's going on with people. And I understand that local government is not directly, and their thing is not really to deal directly with the people, but it's for the people. So you need to ask the people that you're helping how to better help them sometimes. And so we've worked with that. We give out care packages. We just did that this past week. We gave out toiletries and paper products to the people that need things. That's why you sell this stuff around. So we have continued to work and do those simple things that help people know that someone cares about them. Hence, community caring.
All right. So, how do you want your family to be remembered in Mooresville, and how do you want yourself and your company's legacy to be remembered?
It's really like all in one.
Yeah.
I would want to be remembered for not taking no for an answer. I would like to be remembered for fighting for these people. Because when we came over here, they said to us, y'all gonna leave like everybody else. We said, no, we're not. Because you had so many different missionaries from different churches, and they would come and bring Jesus, but then they were gone. So it hardened them. So by the time we got here, they were really hard. And I would like for our organization, for my family, for our family name to be known as people that wanted to help and didn't just sit around and talk about it, but did something. At some point, it has to be boots on the ground.
And not to be afraid of the fight.
No.
Because there are a lot of times I have faced opposition. But you know what it is? It's just another situation. We had to learn how to deal with it. But if you're opposing me, I am a proud Mitchell graduate. And Dr. Brewer, I just sent him a message, and I wanted them to start a food program. And I'm interested in getting people to go to Mitchell to take classes. Whether you get a degree or diploma, certification, or whether you just take a regular class, it will change your mindset. And I spoke to him about the fact that I realized the food insecurity is not a college problem, but it is a humanity problem.
It is.
And if you're in the business of people, as we say we are,
Right.
then you should be concerned about their mindset, because nobody can take in any information if their stomach is growling. And so we want to be remembered as those people that fought for a good cause.
Yes.
And that won some battles, have lost a few, but that doesn't stop the fight. And you always have to fight.
There's a baby company that says Gerber, and Gerber babies are our business.
Yes.
We say here at Emmanuel, for community caring, people are our business, our only business.
Yeah.
We're good.
Okay.
I remember there was some time back when we were discussing about getting a place out here where we could have the seniors and the children get together, because both of them need each other. And so we had gone down to Davidson, had visited their whole complex down there, and just looking at the things that we wanted to have and whatever. And we were just so happy just to be able to, if we could have it where the older people could come and just meet, have coffee or something, because they need that socializing thing that they've lost. And the children, they needed to have somebody just be there. So anyway, we went over to Lowe's. I don't know if what you call that over there.
The why?
And we talked to some people, and they were like, yeah, we know we should be doing more. We really do. We know we're supposed to be over there. Oh, well, all right then. You know you're supposed to be over here. So, okay, they came over here, and we talked and whatever, and God has blessed us with land out there. And so we were talking and everything, and we thought everything was going good, and next thing we know, we've decided, no, we just don't want to. I said, okay. How is it when you know where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to be doing, but you just don't do it? I don't understand that. Because the need, you saw the need. And at that time, those new homes were not even here. So when you drive from one end all the way to here, the need that you see is not enough to make you do something. It's so sad because for us, we hear people talk all the time about, you can get funding for this, and you can get funding for that, and nobody helps us or wants us to get funded for anything. So, we'll just keep doing what we've been doing because evidently we're the ones that see the need.
I would like for us to be able to get some type of recognition for Mr. Alexander Coble. Mr. Coble in 1910 he was the first black person that owned land on McClellan Avenue. And that man went through so much to get that house built. And it's over there, and we need a plaque for that. And so I've spoken with someone about that. And then when I was speaking with them about that again, they said, well, they're going to be doing this and doing that or whatever. So we're going to do what we need to do to get that done. Because I think we have to realize it's not always about bringing up dirt. It's about once you do something good with a bad situation. It's not always that you got to bring up dirt. But let's bring some good seed over some bad stuff that was done.
Yes.
And then people will feel better about it.
Yes.
We've always heard and always hear they want people on Bell Street and Patterson and Lee to be more homeowners. They want us to do this, and they want us to be, because most people over here rent. We happen to own. God has blessed us. But whenever you turn the sink on in the kitchen, you can't go in the bathroom and flush the commode because the water pressure is that low and that bad.
Right.
But you want us to own where we can't have water pressure. And so what I'm saying is we need to recognize the achievements and the milestones that have been done in the African American community.
Yes.
And not only just in our community, but for the town of Mooresville as a whole. Because there are a lot of hurt feelings that are here because of how Jim Crow laws were back in 1900. They don't want to talk about that. And I understand to some degree why they don't, because a lot of the people that are in our government now, they're not even from Mooresville.
Right.
They're implants.
Right.
Transplants, whichever way you want to put them.
Yeah.
And so they don't know that the people here have a lot of hurt feelings behind things that have been done, and no one has done anything to rectify any of those bad seeds. So what I do, and I get thrown in the fire a lot. I don't care. But we're going to have to make sure we take some strides positively to kill off some of that stuff that's been laying dormant and starting to stink. Because when people are in dire need and they begin to feel left out and feel disenfranchised, is the word they like to use, then stuff starts to stink a little more. And what we're trying to do is trying to keep a total collapse and stuff at bay. Because we realize that people are hurting in our community.
True.
And when people hurt, sometimes things don't go good.
They have a mural that they're putting on the back street where Liberty Park is, where those apartments are. And they showed a picture of it. And I'm thinking, if you got a mural of what's happening in Mooresville, black people are going to be somewhere on there, right? Oh, but then I read where it said for Selma Burke.
That dime.
That
They put a picture of a dime on
that did the dime, the head on the dime. But we are represented. They're putting the head of the dime on there.
That's our contribution.
That's our contribution.
To that whole big old mural wall, that's what we got.
Hey, they're right on it. That's all we get.
But never fear. Because old Daniel, on the Lions Den, we're going to get that taken care of.
Because you look at it and you go, this is what we do. When they have things, just like they had the Veterans Parade and they had the parade Tuesday, we don't go uptown for anything. Why? Because you go uptown, them people ain't speaking to you.
They look at you like, what you doing?
They look at you like you're in the wrong place. They had the veterans. My husband, Jesse Houston, was a veteran because he went to Vietnam.
6 years.
Nobody asked anything. Why? Because all the veterans were white people. I think I saw one was one black man somewhere, and then I think it was a man and a woman. Maybe they had a little baby or something. That's it. But when they say they're gonna have something uptown, we're not going. We can't. Well, Rob went to the Central Church across from Mitchell, and she was invited there. Of course, nobody talked to her or anything. You know, whatever. I've had people when I was working in Huntersville nannying. They came from other places, and they found out that we were talking in the park, and one of the families said to me, "You know, we wanted to come up there to church, but we didn't see any black people." I said, "Everybody knows in Mooresville,
You don't go there.
it's segregated. We don't go to white churches and white churches."
Now
I
you
think
know accident.
out at the Brawley School Road, that big church out there, I think they have a couple maybe here and there, but in Mooresville, I've never been inside of Broad Street. I've never been inside South Side. I've never been inside First Baptist. We don't go there. We go to black churches, and they go to white churches.
That's why that's the most segregated hour. Is
It
12 o'clock
is.
on Sunday.
It is.
Or 11 o'clock, whichever one it is.
I remember back in the old days when my father worked at Burlington, those people that, if somebody died, a black person died, his supervisor, the maybe 3 or 4 of them, they would be up there on the front row. And I was like, what? I mean, for me, that was something. I was like, they came to a black people church. But now, they don't know about anybody. They don't do anything. If somebody died, you tell them, oh, well, that's it. But that's what we're dealing with. And that's what we need to change. Because,
excuse me. Now, I'm saying, Mooresville used to be known as Mayberry.
it was.
Now, because Mooresville, at one time, Mooresville had, was known as a little town with a heart. Back in the day, whenever people just realized that it was tough for everybody. So sometimes if you have something in your garden and you don't use it, then I'll have this in my garden and you can swap. Did a lot of bartering back in the day.
Yes.
But now, oh no, they just don't want. You know, I remember when I went to that little church over there, and the pastor invited me to come over there, and I went over there, and the little girl was gonna sit beside me because the adults were looking at me like I was an alien and I had 3 horns, and she came and said her mother came and snatched her up real quick. Oh no, don't bother her. Don't sit right there.
I do not go to Bell's. I haven't been to Kohl's since I don't know when, because every time I go in there,
Yeah, you follow it around.